For
did the
Rita?
taxes. And I had called them, making sure everything was
Okay.
still, and I got another thing.
So what is it? His overseas? Is it his military wages?
I don't know what it is. They're saying that, that he failed to file again. That's what it was. And it's
Okay.
like, I don't,
Just hate that. I've got nothing but complaints.
With Rita?
In the
Oh, don't even start with me.
Especially when they run those programs.
nightmare getting stuff fixed.
Yeah.
We're live.
That's a shame.
Okay.
I really. Amy, can you send it to me so I can like?
is it
see what's
okay if
going
I
on?
go ahead and start? Okay.
Should.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Make sure I'm on and everyone can hear me. If you can't hear me, just let me know. I'm going to start tonight with public health and safety. The item I have tonight is ISO, and I have to, forgive me because my notes I have on my phone, so that is what I am doing, is pulling up my memos that I had with the fire chief. I don't know if any of you are aware of what ISO is and the impact it has with our city. It's how businesses and homeowners insurances, where you get your rating scales. So depending where you fall with when they do their assessment, that's how your homeowner's insurance and your business insurance is determined. It's by a rating scale. And we have been maintained a 3 for quite some time, and we are still currently, I believe we're still going to be a 3, but we're real borderline of crossing over to that number. Was there, wait a minute, let me think, was it 2 or 3 and he couldn't be here tonight. Brian, do you remember, was it 2? We're
lower,
2.
The lower the number, it's kind of like golf. The lower the number, the
Right.
better. So.
Okay, so 1 is the best, 1 is the best, 10 is the worst. We are currently a 3. We were hoping that we were going to be a 2 because, you know, things have really changed at the fire department. Things have improved. We did get an additional body. You know, so when they came back and talked about moving us up a point, the whole analogy of that totally surprised our chief. What ISO stands for is International Organization of Standardization. They rate this by run calls, training, risk, call breakdown, pump testing, etc. 3 ways that that we can do to get the number back down. Staffing, which is, you know, that's usually an obvious. Their thing with staffing is having 4 men on an engine. They do not like that, you know, sometimes there are only 2 men in an engine and 2 men in the ambulance. That is a big red flag. The minimum amount that is allowed is 4. There's ways, you know, and again, if you don't take the ambulance, then, you know, if there's an injury or on a call, you're putting another risk on. Training site, off-site. A lot of the trainings where you could actually increase your points is off-site. So we don't have the staffing to send someone off-site. So when you have bodies not at the station, that then will affect the others. It's almost like a domino effect. And the other thing is auto aid. We don't have a true auto aid. So that's something that the chief is working on, to set up auto aid and to get that going. He's hoping right now to get us to maintain our 3 at least, and possibly if we could get down to a 2, is if we can get the training, figure out the training and the auto aid. If we have those 2 things strong, that should hopefully maintain, possibly maybe get us down to a lower number. We have applied for that grant, but again, 300 people also have applied for that grant that would help us hire 2 other firemen. So he has right now currently saved almost 120,000, well, it will be almost 120,000 that he would be able to fund a position down the road. So he would be able to possibly fund a position, but that is something that's kind of off right now until that's up to the finance director and the mayor with, you know, where the budget is. But through the cuts and the way he is currently staffed and has been able to save on overtime, it's already starting to show that money is starting to save up. So he's doing what he said, you know, he was able to do. He said that also the PAVER study back in 2009 show the same numbers as what this ISO is going after. And he said back in 2009, it also showed that they needed the staffing of the numbers that ISO is requesting. And he goes, we're in 2023, where our call volume has drastically increased, and we're bringing new businesses in. So that is a concern. He said he's hoping to have, you know, more money allocated for training and, you know, to get hopefully 2 positions minimum going. So, but if this number were to change, then I don't know if some of you saw maybe a site that I think maybe Ravenna Township's number increased. And a lot of their homeowners were upset because that would then again affect your homeowner's insurance to go up quite some. So that's something that we may not think that this is going to affect everyone, but if we're bringing these businesses in and we are also, you know, had our residents pass, you know, public health and safety levies, the last thing we want is to be a reason for their homeowners insurance to go up. So these are just things to think about. We're not acting on anything right now, but Chief wanted everyone to know about it and kind of give you a heads up on what's going on and some of the things that he's working on.
If I could add real quick, I don't know if it was mentioned, but he said he was meeting with the representative from, I think it was the Retro Division.
Yes.
On July 18th, so on the procedures to help keep us at a 3 rating. So what he did stress is even if we do regain our 3 rating, this will not be the case without this will not be the case long-term without additional personnel, according to him. So
Correct.
just something to keep in mind.
Thank you for that. Yes, so he said if we did, you know, get an extra person on each shift, he said that, you know, he could put that extra person on the fire truck and have 1 person operate the ambulance instead of 2. You know, there's ways to do that, but I think some of the numbers might not have been actual in the past, so things are kind of catching up with us a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay? All right, any questions on this? All right, any management updates on this or anything else?
Yeah, this was based basically on structure fires. It did not take into account paramedics, but with that particular thing. Back in, as you well know, in the early 12, 13, we were in a situation where we were cutting staff. And the public did support a change in that. That happened as I became mayor. And we were down to 4 on a shift at that time. And their score was higher, okay?
But I don't know if those numbers are.
Well, you've already explained part of this comes from training, and there's a variety of ways for this to happen. And it was a shock to the chief because he thought he was going to move to a 2. with this. These evaluations are not frequent, they're every 5 years. So we have plenty of time, and I have told them that this will not be going down, it's going to go up. We're in the process of analyzing where we can get it, but I think we want to be as good as we can be. I don't believe that the building is the reason for this, but a new facility would be able to help with the training on site. And a lot of the training can be done by our senior officers. But it all has to be documented. Part of this was a case of not thorough documentation. And keep in mind, this is based on going back 5 years. This was, I'm not laying this at the
It's
foot
not,
of
no, it's not our current chief.
But they're all committed to getting this straightened out. We don't want it. I had a meeting with the gentleman that did the evaluation and the chief, and he says basically they look for trends. The problem will come if they come in the next time and it's lower, then it's going the wrong way, and that's when you're going to lose the rating. So we're going to make sure that does not happen. So,
Any other new updates, Mayor, on public health and safety?
no, that's all for right now.
Okay.
I did have, we're in the process of getting ready for Octane Night, which is August 2nd. Of course, that's a big event here in town with that, and I have a meeting this week with the people from Mongoose. It'll be our final meeting before the event, and I went with her this morning to go out to talk to the new places that are there to let them know, but their friends around them already told them that's a big night, and expect to have a crowd. They're going to be wading through about 15,000 people. So, but they seem fine. The people we talked to this morning seem quite fine. We're looking forward to it.
I do want to bring up, under new business, shout out to our Ravenna Police Department on the press release that was released on the success they had on a traffic stop. So, and it was a joint effort after the fact, which I like to see when everyone is working together. But thank you, Ravenna Police, for taking care of a bad situation and getting them off our street. So kudos to you. Okay, it's 6:10. I am going to adjourn public health and safety.
All right, it's 6:12. I will call the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting to order. Several items on the agenda this evening. The first one is just to allow to send out a request for proposals for our tree inventory. The good news is this is only done every 7 years. The bad news is we're expecting about a price jump, probably about tripled of what it was 7 years ago. But this is just to allow that proposal to go out, so. Any questions on that?
Yes, does this include the trees in the parks as well?
These are city trees, so
Yeah.
city park, yes. There's
Okay.
about 6,300 trees that they'll be inventorying.
Okay, city park, Havers, and anywhere like that? Okay,
Matt, excuse me, I believe it's just the street tree inventory.
The street tree.
Yeah,
So, I'm sorry, yeah, so not
Just
the
the street
parks
trees,
at this
yeah,
point.
not the
Just the
parks.
street trees,
okay,
They're under separate budgets.
yeah. So it won't include city park or Havers.
okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thanks, Kay.
you're welcome.
So we'll go ahead and move that item forward, send those out. Next item on the agenda is to pay ODOT for the city's portion of the Main Street project. That payment amount is $781,028 for our portion of that project. Is there anything else we need to?
Yes, we've actually reduced it to 626,556. That'll show up in your finance or committee of the whole documents, along with consent legislature from ODOT. I just received that today and sent it to Chelsea. She'll have it, an updated packet for you, and I'll have to update the tracking sheet and allow the mayor to enter the contract with ODOT, and then also finance director to send them a check. ODOT wants the check ahead of time, which is their standard process, and then they'll give us money on the back end if there's money left over, not spent.
Do we know what the decrease was from?
We cut out a few things.
Oh.
When I understood their engineer's method of quantifying work, I told them, no, that wasn't right. I know the street better than they do,
Okay.
so they
That's good.
reduced quantities.
Okay. And I believe everybody's noticed the work is well
Started.
underway, so
Yes.
it won't be long. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move that item forward as well. The next item is to enter into a contract with Ohio Paving, and that is for the police parking lot in the cemetery main drive. Both came in under budget, so those items will both be moved forward. Any additional questions on that? None? Move that item forward. And then the last item is also to enter into a contract with Carvo Companies, and this is for the Chestnut and Prospect Street resurfacing. And most of that is all grant money, Mr. Finney?
No, Prospect was 90%,
90%.
and Chestnut was 80%. Once we opened the bids, we asked for a 15% increase, and they gave us, ODOT gave us a 15% increase, which amounted to about $115,000.
Any
So
addi-
the last two, the two that we just discussed, Ohio Paving, and then the Carvo, Chestnut Prospect, we would like to have a special on the 24th, so we can get the contractors to start immediately.
Okay. Couple of really big projects. Any questions on either one of those? So we'll go ahead and move all those forward. Manage,
I'll just add, management, they're gonna start laying bricks tomorrow.
for the second phase
Correct.
of South Freedom.
We've got about 22 pallets stacked of the old road brick that will be incorporated into the street somehow. We're gonna use as many as we can. They are kind of different, a little bit of different sizes, so the contractor's gonna weed through and, of course,
Fit
we're
them
gonna
in
pay
where
for
they
this,
can.
but
I know that was important to some of the residents, so that
if we can
happy
use
that
them,
those are
then
being repurposed.
Right.
Absolutely.
we will.
Good, thank you. Management update?
You've already covered it. It's going to be tough getting through town here for a little bit in the summer with the main artery going south and the main artery going north. They're both going to be repaved, and that'll be starting pretty quick with that. We're already working on the west end of town on widening the street out there. Now, whether that'll be paved or not this year, we're not sure. Chances are pretty good it might be next spring. But all the other structural work that has to be done before they can do the paving with the widening is being taken care of now.
Thank you. Okay. 6:20, I will adjourn the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting.
At 6:20, I'll start the utility committee meeting. The first topic on the agenda is the tax assessments. Things that involve in those are delinquent water bills and nuisance mowing. So the nuisance mowing is included on properties that have been unmowed for, I'd just say several weeks, and they have been assessed a fee. Part of that depends on how many times it's been mowed thus far. And as far as water, that have been unpaid water, and so there's been no effort for the unpaid water for probably at least a couple of months. So these two things will be going on the property owner's taxes. And the only way they will not be going on the taxes unless these are taken care of quite soon. The next thing would be.
Let me ask a real quick
Yeah.
question on the nuisance mowing specifically. And I guess it's a two-part question, but do we have a contract for the individual who does the nuisance mowing?
Oh,
So if we could get that, and at the budget meeting, when we had that, I asked for a contract for council to do that. The other part that I wanted to ask, that's one request, just contract that council can approve. The other is the process, and I brought this up a couple times. Just so I understand it, there might be a request for council. When an individual, and we're just focusing on nuisance mowing, and I want to emphasize, Don's not doing anything wrong, Julie's not doing anything wrong, I think they're doing their jobs. An individual receives the warning and then has a time that they come into compliance, and if they don't, then they are issued the fine, the violation notice. After that point, I'm not arguing that point, but after that point, then they're just issued violation notices.
Yeah, because how it works is, the violation notice, they're given one per season.
Mhm.
So if they don't keep, so if they get one and then they don't keep their lawn up,
Yeah.
they go on our radar, then our mower automatically goes out there. He does measure if it's 8 inches or higher.
So the
they
third
mow.
party, though, is issuing that violation? On
I'm sorry?
the third party, that lawn mowing company is issuing the violation
No.
on behalf of the
The
city?
mower doesn't issue it, we do.
So does Don then go out and measure, take the picture, and then communicate with the lawn mowing company to go cut the grass? Or is it,
No, it's between Julie and the mower.
so Julie's going out to take the pictures and then
The mower
having?
does.
So the mower takes the
He takes
pictures.
before and after pictures, he measures the grass.
Is there a period of time where, so he just takes the picture, immediately mows the grass, and then issues the bill or the report to Julie to then issue the violation to the homeowner or property owner? Is that right?
They get one violation notice per season.
But if there's multiple, like on some of these, the lawn mowing company is the one issuing that violation notice?
No. We issue the violation notice, and then
They're
Julie-
flagging it.
and
To
then-
your point, they're flagging it. They
Yeah,
are
they give you
saying,
information.
this
And then
is,
Julie contacts the mower.
and I think that's.
She gets it from Don
I understand.
originally.
Yeah, and I think that's where we diverge, I think in terms of having a third party that we don't have a contract with, taking the picture and immediately cutting the grass, and then the city does issue the violation, understand that now, the process. But I think having Don issue that violation or take the picture, making sure that it is 8 inches, according to the ordinance, and then going out to the lawn mowing company and saying, you need to cut this grass, where I'm seeing, it's kind of immediate. He is, or whoever the individual is, the third party, taking the picture, immediately cutting the grass, and then coming and communicating with, does that make sense the way I'm explaining it? That then coming to the city saying, I cut this grass, you need to issue the violation notice for this. It just seems backwards that we have a private entity who is issuing, seems like.
Well,
you
it
know,
sounds almost like he's doing it for his own benefit, in a
Right.
sense.
I don't know that I'd go
I'm
that far. I think
concerned.
he is now the interpreting, he is interpreting it. Well, I think just for right now, I'm asking for the contract for council to approve. I think in addition to that, that maybe it lives here for the next meeting, but it is reviewing that, that maybe because speaking to other cities, that they have, you get a warning and a violation notice, a warning and a violation notice. And I don't know what that time period is, if it's 3 times, according to the nuisance ordinance that we have, that then there comes a certain point where you can't keep doing that. I understand.
So, like, how in between do you want the warning and the violation notice?
Well, I guess that's the other part of the question is how long do they have to come in? Is it 3 days that they have to come into compliance for the nuisance mowing? So I think, and it's a question for council on whether that is administrative or that's actually in the ordinance form. I didn't see that they have the window of 3 days. And I'm going to go down another rabbit hole here in a second, Bob, for other things. But at least according to nuisance mowing, it is a 3-day window they come into compliance for that the warning, violation. I feel like I'm all over the place, but I'm trying to get somewhere.
We don't give warnings.
Well, then I will,
Well, the only, I mean,
Don't give warnings?
We don't give warnings.
if I'm understanding the process, I agree with what Ms. Michaels said. If the contractor, the person we're contracting with to cut the grass, sounds like he becomes the de facto gardener for these people. If he's just, after the first instance, going out there and then now he's on their list and he goes back every so often and cuts the grass and then sends a bill to the city, there's a piece missing, I believe.
Yeah, it just has that perception. I'm not saying he does, but to hearing what I'm saying in the perception, and that, how did we pick this person, that there's no contract? Do we just,
I'll tell you that this person has been doing this since December of 2008. So it's not anyone that I brought on.
well, and I'm not.
oh,
I'm
we're not saying that. I just
Yeah.
didn't know
Okay,
there
I'll
was
make
no
that clear.
contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make
I
that
think,
clear.
and going back to what I said about Don, he's doing his job, and I think as we have a person who that is his sole job description, is to go out and enforce the property maintenance issues. So we've seen that number increase. So I think just getting the contract in place, number one, and then I'm asking council, is there a window that we should be looking at coming into compliance? And one is nuisance violation, and Bob, this is where I was at the other rabbit hole of are they itemized in a certain way that for nuisance mowing, it's 3 days, you have a fence, is there a certain window of, can we just get that, a list, I guess? I don't know how you would itemize it so that council can review.
So we have by ordinance number, we have a small piece of paper with violations. Could be trash on the tree lawn, ordinance number,
Yeah.
X amount of days. It could be high grass,
Yeah.
72 hours, those things. And
Okay.
Each violation has an ordinance number attached.
And I think big picture, what I'm trying to get at, and I should have led with this, big picture is this is not a revenue driver for the city. All we're trying to do is just raise the standard of living, for people across the city. So,
Can I ask a clarification question? Okay, you said we don't give warnings, so then, like, if my grass is 10 inches tall, how do I know that they're gonna come out and cut it if I don't get a warning?
Well, you're given a violation notice.
Violation
And you have
notice.
72 hours to cut your grass.
And
or
it
3
says,
days.
The first time.
right on the violation
first
notice that you only are going to receive one violation per season.
So then let's say 4 weeks later, I don't get to my grass again, they just come out and instantly cut it.
If it's more than 8 inches.
If it's more than 8
watching it.
inches.
And what happens if somebody is out of town on vacation? That's when the violation is first initially issued.
Well,
And,
if people communicate with us, we work with them, and we have voided invoices in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know what's going on in people's lives if
Sure.
they don't let us know.
so just out of curiosity, what is the per mowing charge that we're getting charged from this
The mower
contractor?
charges us 40 per mow, a normal lawn. We charge the residents $100 per mow.
Okay, so the $100 fee on here is that the mower went out and did it one time. But if there's a $300 fee, then the mower has been there 3 times, $240 fee. would be,
What's the math?
I know, that's,
It depends, like.
On the size, maybe?
If something's really bad, then he'll charge a little bit more than the 40, but he'll let Julie know that.
and like this particular list that we have, is this from June 30th of last year till July 1st of this year? Is it a certain amount of time until you submit these?
They're submitted every August to the county.
So
Now,
it's-
if someone comes in before this is submitted to the county, we take it off of this list. But once it's at the county, they have to go to the county if they want to pay.
so will we have a contract for the next meeting?
No, we
Okay.
won't. Because this is something that we would have to bid out unless we're just going to enter some form of an agreement contract with Lollapin. That's who does the mowing.
We would have to send RFPs out for this, if that's what you want.
The problem is it's well below, potentially, well, it's well below $50,000 in service. So we could solicit bids, but the other is we don't know the quantity each year. We don't know if they're gonna mow 100 yards or if they're gonna mow 2 yards. And over the years, Lollapin has been the only one that has been willing. They, I believe years ago, they did solicit. And he's the one that just keeps coming back.
So I'm confused, though. If it's not above the threshold requiring to go to bid, why can't we just have a contract with the current?
Well, we could, but
Yeah.
is Mr. Smino gonna assemble that contract for us by the next meeting?
Oh,
No, we know he won't. So we're probably gonna have to kick it back to August, if
Oh,
that's the
okay.
case.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just concerned about the whole process of RFPs and stuff, if that's necessary.
Because I believe we have, for nuisance mowings, we have 8,500 budgeted,
Oh, well, that's nowhere near.
very minimal.
yeah.
And $40 is actually a pretty good price for a city yard.
Not arguing.
It is, but also having that contract in place that outlines what is more than $40 or how the process works is important.
But, having him be the one checking these lawns, that's where I'm a
But
little
he-
bothered
so
some.
I think that's a misconception. So our property maintenance, either they identify high grass, either somebody complains or they actually see it themselves. So they identify it, they post a violation notice, cut your grass. And if they go back in 72 hours or 3 days, whatever it is, and they see it again, then they call Julie.
Who's
So-
they, though?
Dawn or Mike.
Okay, so it's our guys.
Our guys, yes. Then Lollapin's going out to cover his backside to say, yes, it's high, and look, I cut it.
Right.
Then he could submit an invoice. He doesn't submit a violation, he would submit an invoice.
And that's why I know Julie, I don't know how, a couple years probably, she asked him to do before and after pictures, because that covers our butts.
So, but I thought maybe I misheard the process. But then after that,
After
does
first.
does the contractor now go out and check to see if it was cut the next time?
That's.
Or are our guys going out and repeating the process, calling Julie, having Julie contact the guy each time? Or is it now just under the purview of our lawn mowing guy?
That's what I was talking about, that,
The
was weird.
way it was originally set up, the contractor would just put it on his schedule to go cut.
Yeah.
However, if he shows up and it's been cut, he keeps on going. He doesn't cut that if it's been cut.
So he kind of follows like that a nuisance mowing list.
Correct. But again, if the residents cut it the rest of the year, he doesn't cut it anymore.
Yeah, I just worried, because like I said before, he becomes a de facto gardener for these people in a sense.
Sure.
And I don't know if that's, I don't know, I do have a little bit of concern that we've not, it's one thing to contract with somebody to do the work when we see it needs to be done. It's another, because he does, look, I'm not really casting any aspersions, but it would be in his interest to go back and recut the grass every time and
You
keep
know, there's
himself in
been times
business.
He's been too busy, and we've had to tell him he needed to go.
See, and that's the thing, because I've been on, I know we've voted on this list every year. And for some reason, I was always thinking, the city cut the grass, but, so this is what's news to me, that we actually have somebody going out and doing it.
Back when Kelly was a service director, I think she had the street department do some things.
Yeah, she did.
But
Parks and Rec,
It didn't.
they do city-owned properties.
Right, yeah, of course.
And then we have the contractor for.
Okay, and I'm not saying this is a
Municipals.
bad idea, and $40 seems reasonable to me. I just am a little concerned about the process, and if there's a way we can
Tighten that up a little bit.
There was a minimum assessment value that the auditors also has set, and we can't, is there a minimum value that we can have for an assessment?
300, I believe.
Okay, so that plays into it also.
Now, if any of you want to email either Bob or I with suggestions what you'd want in this, you can do me, I don't care. In this contract, feel free to,
Yeah.
and then,
Copy Dawn on it, Dawn
yeah.
would review it,
So-
Dawn and Kay.
I think it may be a simple thing is if after the first instance, the mower goes out, takes a picture, sends it to the city to get the okay, because I just worry that there's no supervision or oversight by the city on those second, third, or whatever mowings.
Have the city, maybe write the address and maybe not take a picture, because sometimes pictures are hard to judge when and so forth.
Unless they put a ruler out there in the middle of the
Yeah.
grass.
Yeah. And send the address to Don and Mike and have them, double check it. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if they need to double check it, just at least the okay, you know what I mean?
Some type of formal approval.
Yeah.
Okay, go on to the next item, the agri-sludge contract. It's a 2-year contract with the wastewater treatment plant to have the sludge trucked away periodically. Periodically is how often that it does accumulate. This company has been doing this for the wastewater treatment plant for, I'll just say, several years. They've been very efficient. There has never been a problem with them, with the past contracts of doing this service. So if there's any questions pertaining to this?
Do we
Okay.
know if the fees have gone up?
Okay. Yes, I was told they went up from $6.99 a ton to $17.34.
They tripled?
No, $16.99
Oh, 16. Oh, I thought it was at 6.
to $17.34. And the only way that it will increase above that is if the price of diesel takes a big hike.
I can't imagine there's a lot of companies that do sludge removal for waste. This is a specialty thing.
Yeah, it is a specialty thing. Okay, if there's no questions or comments pertaining to that. Then the next thing, something that's we've heard about for some time, is the grant for the water tank or standpipe, as it's called at times, over on the old GE property, which Harner does own at the present time. So that would be accepting that grant to have that refurbished. And Mr. Finney, do you have any other details pertaining to this?
Yes,
Okay,
the water tank is on city property, not Mr. Harner's property.
okay, thank you.
The dollar amount for the grant,
1.438.
yes, thank you. There it is, yeah, 1.438. This is through the Ohio Department of Development Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Program. And the tracking sheet Tracking sheet reads, accepting the grant and authorizing the mayor to sign the grant agreement.
So this says the construction of an elevated water tank. That means we are not refurbishing the one that's already there.
We will have an elevated tank when we're finished, whether we cut it in half and put off and put it on a pedestal,
Okay,
or we tear the whole thing down and build a new one.
okay.
What we're interested in is potentially a stainless steel tank, so we never have to paint it. Last time we painted it was $250,000. We just did the inside. So if we can save those perpetual maintenance costs,
Absolutely. Yep.
the issue with stainless steel is quality is difficult to match, and there's also some EPA things with welding stainless steel and some other things. So We're supposed to have an answer by the end of this week, if it's feasible.
That's great.
So if not, then we're gonna go the next direction, and that's, like I said, possibly cutting the tank in half, using the top half.
That'd be kind of fun to see how they would do that.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Do we get a new logo on it if that's the case?
Yes, you can have a new logo on it, whatever you want. Whatever you, Cheryl, whatever you want.
Do you have all the funding then to move forward with the project, or is this just one?
I think we have what did we put together, about 3.2 million, I think.
Is that more than the scope? I guess is,
It should be more.
We hope so, but it's really hard to tell, the way the contracting prices are.
okay.
The prices change, and they're so fluid. I hope so.
Okay, if there are any more comments or questions pertaining to this, the next item on the agenda is the amended section for the settlement of small claims. So this would be under moral claims. The amount in the past was $1,000. Okay, then it was, to my understanding, recommended to go to double that to $2,000 per claim.
Was that Kay's,
So-
was that Kay's
Pardon?
recommendation?
Yes, that was a recommendation of the service director. So are there any,
Wasn't it talk,
I threw out 3,000, it wasn't concrete. So when I thought about it, I thought going with the 2, which I think is generous. This last one that we paid, the 3,500, that was excessive. Looking back at previous moral claims that we've done, there hasn't been anything really close to that. So, I mean, if you guys want to go with the 3, I'm good with that too.
I'm not on this committee, but I'm just wondering if it would save less confusion if you would do and up to a certain amount. I don't know, it just seems like 2,000, maybe 2,500, would be my suggestion.
It already
If
says
the
that, though.
history doesn't show more, the 3,500 that council approved for this last one, like she
Was
just said, was
excessive,
excessive.
I understand that.
So I don't think that we need to approve up to 3,500.
Not
And it-
3,500, but.
Right. I think the 2,000 is more than reasonable. Usually it's tires, rims, things like that, hitting potholes. It's minor things. It's not something typically major that gets produced through this, and that was one of the reasons why I was against going all the way up to 3,500 for the last one. And I think that 2,000 is more than reasonable.
I think that doubles it, and then it does say no more than
yeah,
in
so
here. So if someone submits a claim for $200, I get the $200.
Right.
Yeah.
But if there's a claim for 3,500, then it'll come back to council for approval.
Or they get 2,000.
If it's $2,000, then Kay
Yeah.
can approve it.
okay, if there are any more, if there are no more comments pertaining to that increase,
Well, so,
yes.
just so I understand, because this is my committee too, so we're going to move this forward with the 2,000? Is that,
To my understanding, yes.
How do you feel about it, Christina?
I would be good with the 2,000 or even 2,500, but I don't think any more than that, yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm okay with the 2,000.
Yes, with that, I'll say percentage of increase at this time.
And it's something that
The
we,
reason I said at this time, maybe years down the road, it could go higher.
sure. And this is something that we can also discuss at committee of the whole, to see if anybody, if there's more feedback on it. But for right now, 2,000.
Yes,
Okay.
because one reason I like that is because everybody knows in the past approximate 3 years, practically everything is drastically increasing in price.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
yes. Okay, and the last thing on the agenda is a management update.
I have nothing right now.
Okay? Utility Committee will adjourn at 6:44.
Okay, it's 6:44, and we'll call to order the Planning Committee meeting. Do we need to add anything to this meeting?
think we did have a couple people who wanted to speak this evening, so we may have to add discussion around Parks and Rec, I guess it
Okay.
would be.
Parks and Rec discussion. Oh, we'll get to that in a moment. The only other thing on the agenda is the CLG grant award, so it's been a long story, a couple of years in the making, where we wanted to investigate, looking into our code regarding the Design Review Commission and the guidelines for the Historic District. So we put things on hold to apply for this grant a few months back. And if you remember the discussion, we did talk initially that the grant would provide $18,000. Well, let me just back up and say the cost after getting some we requested some quotes from various contractors, consultants, and the one we landed on was from Prospectus for $30,000. And we did have a $30,000 limit, so we hit the limit. And the grant would pay $18,000, which would mean remaining $12,000. Now, I did have a question, I did ask Bob a while back, I don't know what the answer was, but I thought at one time there was a recommendation that we apply for a different grant through CLG, or something different was about it where we would get funded 100%. And so we got the award, but it was the original
Right.
split of 18-12. Did you find out what happened there?
He never responded.
Oh, he never responded, okay. So, we didn't get the full amount, that's the bottom line. So the city's still on the hook for the $12,000. So in your packet, it does have the 11-page response that we were given, or awarded the $18,000, and that our cut is the $12,000. The only thing missing from our packet is a contract. So we still, I had sent something to Mr. Semino months ago. I don't know if he ever followed up or whatever. So I don't know if we have an action item with this yet. But we're going to need a contract. That's the only remaining, well, we have to, well, we do have an action item, which is accepting the grant.
Accepting the grant, and the tracking sheet also says accepting the grant and contract agreement. So the contract agreement was done electronically.
How did that?
That's what you signed correctly, or correct?
And the contract
thinking?
agreement is with the person that's doing this study?
Prospectus.
Is,
Oh, is that what you're referring to, prospectus?
Yeah.
Okay, no, we don't have that yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
Right, right.
But what are you
Sorry.
talking about in this, what does the contract refer to in the tracking sheet?
Through Ohio Historic Preservation.
Accepting the grant.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so that's the action item, which is accepting the grant. It'd be nice if we tied them both together.
So we're going to go back to design review in 2 weeks to further discuss
Okay.
this and verify they want to move forward with prospectuses. They have already elected to, but
Yeah,
you
the
announced
council actually did pick Prospectus.
they did. Okay, so then
Yeah.
it's a done deal then.
Yeah.
We just need a contract from prospectus.
Yes.
is there a timeline on this grant to when we have to, I see the performance period, July 1st through December 31st, 2024. So
They
is
want
there,
us to spend it by then.
okay, so it has to be spent by then. Okay, so when does it have to be started by? I mean, does it matter when we would start it by, as long as it's finished by then,
There
or?
is an attachment A timeline schedule.
Yeah, the timeline was from Prospectus, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, I used their timeline and
Changed
filled
the
in
dates.
the grant with it.
Yeah.
Fluffed it a little bit.
Yeah, so you can see
Yeah.
it would be the last half of this calendar year. So hopefully we can get a contract in place. But the action item tonight to move forward is just accepting the grant. Any questions about that?
As far as perspective, is there any reason to think that anyone on council still wants to go with them? Are we okay with that? I know there's been some concern that their focus is not on economic development. So now that we're getting the grant, does any of that change?
I still have the same concerns that I had previously, that I felt CT was much more qualified to promote the historic as well as the economic development.
And we already voted on this, I know. So I'm just asking because we aren't in contract. And since you said you are going back to design review, if that is something that, wants to be talked about, again, just to see, where their thoughts were, and as council to make sure this is definitely who we want to go with. I really listened to the Design Review Committee when they were here. Then I also did some homework and saw some of the information that was provided to me. And so I do see where the concern was for the other, with the economic development part, so.
Just a couple of things. First, I'm not sure if anything substantial has changed between the time City Council selected Prospectus and now, other than the awarding of the grant. But the other complication is Prospectus did provide a clear $30,000 proposal. The other one with CT was not as clearly 30,000. So if there were a change, and I suppose somebody could make that suggestion, and if council voted to go to the other consultant, then we have to come up with more money.
I'm not
Or
for
have
that.
somehow to negotiate with this other
Absolutely. I was just putting it out there because, just want to make sure, since there is no contract, and, exactly what that meant, but I certainly
Well,
don't want to.
We didn't have a
tie-
contract because we decided we were going to make the contract contingent upon getting the grant. So that's why we didn't go ahead with the contract. Because there was still some concern about the full price, and if we had contracted with them and didn't get the grant, we'd be on the hook for $30,000 instead of 12. But anyway, Tim's not here tonight. You okay moving
Yes.
forward just for accepting the grant?
Absolutely.
Okay, then we will move that forward. Now we'll move on to Parks and Rec. So we have some guests tonight. I don't know if there's anyone in particular. Okay, go ahead, you come up to the podium, state your name and address, and tell us your concerns tonight.
My name is Melissa Morris. I reside at 3525 Lovers Lane in the township. Most of you know me. For the ones that don't, I'm an involved parent. I work for the school district. I'm born and raised in Ravenna, and I'm going to give you kind of a long-winded reason why I'm here before I ask some questions. Born and raised in Ravenna. My husband and I, we've lived in multiple cities and states for college and different things. We've experienced amazing cities. We've experienced some not amazing cities. Initially, when we moved back, I actually went out against Cheryl for the vacancy. And you guys know, most of you know, that I have a heart for Ravenna. To stand up here as a complaining resident is hard. I've tried to take this up the chain of command, my issues, my complaints, my parents, complaints, and I feel like I just hit a dead end. I started volunteering for Parks and Rec in 2018. I was supposed to be a parent. In 2018, we signed my oldest up for T-ball. My coach, the day that I met him, seemed rough, for lack of a better word. I am notorious for background checking people on Courtview, if you guys are familiar with that. I went home, looked him up. He had multiple domestic violence charges and child endangerment charges. The next day, I called Parks and Rec. I think I called when there was a transfer of directorship, and I got an individual on the phone at that time named Judy, I believe, and she kind of laughed and said, "Oh, Kathy must have missed it." So I thought, this is a big misunderstanding. This will be rectified. Less than a week later, we had another practice. The coach did not show. None of the parents there had ever played baseball. Kyle Wright at the time was there. He drove his little golf cart over. I led practice. Kyle knew I was not background checked, but he stayed with me. He made sure that the kids were okay. I went home that night. Charges were filed against that coach. That coach was being held in the Portage County Jail for domestic violence. So that is my first true interaction with Ravenna Parks and Rec. To say that I was appalled, again, I'm like, you know what, I'm from Ravenna. I looked at Kent for different programs. Kent was amazing. I'm loyal to my home city. We came back. That's the following fall. By the way, I coached the rest of that season with Kyle Wright helping me. I was never background checked, which just blows my mind. Soccer, the very next season, we signed my daughter up. I was not a coach. My husband was not a coach. We had amazing coaches, Brian Hare, Justin Stratton. That fall, Parks and Rec needed assistance. My husband stepped up. I was his assistant. We replaced with Robbie Delvaux as another assistant coach. The three of us have led, I think it's 9 or 10 seasons of soccer here at Parks and Rec. It was that season when we became coaches that I realized how chaotic and poorly set up our Ravenna Parks and Rec is. As a parent, you don't necessarily see it. If you do, I apologize because it's a mess. As a coach, at least when Jill and Kyle were there, I could call and I'd say, hey, our equipment's bad, or hey, this is going on. And we would at least feel heard and they would try to do what they could. You don't know the number of practices we've played with soccer balls and our game ball pops in the middle of practice, in the middle of the game. My coach and myself, or my husband, I'm sorry, he's usually our head coach. The two of us, we have bought our own bleacher seats for our kids, those pull-out seats. We buy goalie gloves, we buy captain's bands, we buy jerseys, we buy the stuff for our kids. An experience that I had about 2 years ago, my kids that I get in soccer, and this is another side point, they stay with me. I've got parents here, I've got people that wrote in and wanted me to say things on their behalf. They stick with us. We're like a little soccer family. We have currently a U13 team and we have a U9 team. Those 10 to 15 kids stay with us. They just move along and request us. One of our kids couldn't make our practices. Justin Stratton is the coach that is opposite of us. This player's mom called us before season even started and was like, hey, I can't do Wednesday, Friday practices. You know, what can I do? And I said, let me call Justin. I'm sure Justin will take you on his team because rosters had literally been assigned that day. Justin was fine with it. He knew the parent pretty well. We said, call Judy, call Jill, call whoever. You know, they'll make it right. We'll let them know. They were turned away from Parks and Rec stating that rosters were made, uniforms had been ordered, and you could either play or walk away. And the parent said, I don't have the money to just walk away. Can I get a refund? They were told no. That's not the first and only parent. I have plenty of those examples in my back pocket for you if you want more information. According to Parks and Rec, their software doesn't let you, which is in a community where every student in this district gets free and reduced lunches. We should be considering the financial impact of our players. And I'm sorry, I'm going out of step. I wrote a 3-page letter for you guys, and I'm wildly off track. Another experience, I went to school with Andrew, but I don't know him very well. My husband knows him a little better. Andrew taught T-ball and coached T-ball a few years ago, along with my husband. They were the two coaches. My first T-ball experience was enough. I wasn't doing it again. And I think at the time between Andrew and my husband, there were 35 or 40 kids, and it was the same situation. My husband had 15 to 20 kids, way too many kids for what should have been allotted. It was a terrible experience. We will not touch T-ball at Ravenna. Terrible experience. So if you have questions about that, I'm sure Andrew can discuss it from his perspective. When you coach, you sign up. Supposedly the background check you. And then when you come to the first coaches meeting, you get a roster, you get a list of waivers for your parents to sign, you get a photo packet sheet, and you're told to go coach. You don't get coaching materials, you don't get, by the way, I never played soccer in my life. I'm doing this because my husband knows what he's doing. He works for a company that started traveling. I became the head coach and we've just kind of been doing it. They never gave us drills. They've never done anything. Ravenna Parks and Rec is so unreliable to contact after hours or to contact during hours that I have the Kent soccer director's number, and he answers my phone calls when I call. When I first started this, I did not have a very good impression of Garen Daniels. Now he is my godsend for soccer at this point. My experience is this. Ravenna has amazing youth. They have amazing parents. I'm gonna go back to something I said when I was running for city council vacancy. Ravenna's a hidden gem. We just don't put the right people in the right places at times or put enough effort into it. When we get and I can't say you guys, but when we get someone in there, people get comfortable where they're at and they don't see it because they're not in it. Parks and Rec has so much potential. We could be a feeder program into our middle school and high school programs, and we're not. My last example of just the audacity of Parks and Rec, 2 seasons ago, we had a sponsor who was gonna fully fund a skills academy for Ravenna through Parks and Rec. They were gonna donate every penny. We had kids signed up, we had fully, completely paid for. The coaches, including Matt Wonderly, the high school coach, who's kind of the brainchild of this, took it to Parks and Rec. We were told by Judy, she did not like the name of it, and that our main goal was to poach kids into travel. It was a skills and drills. We were renting an indoor place in town. We were gonna hold it at the stadium. We were gonna try to get Raven Packs and all these different local community opportunities for low-income kids to show up for free, get a t-shirt, and kick a soccer ball around. It was firmly denied. But our skills and drills that we went ahead and did without Parks and Rec, we never tagged Parks and Rec in it. We got kids to join Parks and Rec. Some of them play on my team, all the way from Crestwood, all the way from Manaway. We have kids, homeschool kids, that heard from their friends and their family and are on my team. They called Parks and Rec to sign up. Parks and Rec said they held that camp. They would not help us, but they claimed credit for it. And as someone who puts their time in, I find that insulting. My last and final point, we have gone outside of Ravenna, which just breaks my heart. I've taken my kids to Streetsboro for basketball. By the way, Ravenna basketball for girls this year was gonna be held in Barberton. How do low-income kids get to Barberton? We offer typically soccer, and we offer t-ball. We are now offering softball for a short period of time, which I know Destiny couldn't make it tonight. She has some feelings on that. When you offer 2 sports in a diverse community like this, you're underserving our youth. They just today are offering gymnastics for the 2nd time since we lived here. As of writing my letter 2 days ago, I know of 3 coaches that are phenomenal, that are walking away, have already walked away from Parks and Rec this season or going travel into local communities. I'm not gonna lie, I was walking away. We're gonna stay this season. Next season, we're gonna go to Kent and travel with Kent. I'm working with Brian, because in years past, that's not something Ravenna was willing to do. I talked to Garen. Garen is talking to Brian. Garen's gonna walk Brian through the process so that we can stay, which is what my families want. We wanna be here. We wanna represent Ravenna. But the questions I have is, look at their webpage. When you go, you look at their mission. It says they're here for the youth, but when you go to the blurb under that, it discusses our parks. It discusses the RAC. And I think the leadership that's here, those are their main focus. I don't think they're focused on our youth. Now, she talks about it in her little directorship thing, but it's not a focus of Parks and Rec. When you go to the Parks and Rec webpage and you go to sign your child up, in the youth section, before you ever get to a youth event, there's 7 things that they want you to select before you get there. You can sign up for donations, you can sign up to fund scholarships, you can sign up for subscriptions for the RAC, you can do all these things. Youth is not a priority. When you live in a city like Ravenna and you have underprivileged families, and you have underprivileged kids, your focus in the Parks and Rec department should be our youth. You should be funding our coaches, you should be supplying needs for our coaches. My husband and I collectively, since 2018, have put 1,000 hours in at Parks and Rec as volunteers. I have worked for Parks and Rec for 1 summer, and it was the only summer I will ever work with Parks and Rec. And some of the questions I have for you guys that I think you guys need to be considering, what avenues do you have for coaches and parents when they have problems? Because I call, and that problem makes it to a certain point, and it dies, and nothing happens. I was told that there's a board for Parks and Rec, that things were being turned down on. We were told that that board runs Parks and Rec. I'm not sure how that works, but when the soccer thing died, it was stated that the board turned it down, not Judy. How are we measuring success?
That board is only an advisory board, just so you know. It has no
They have no
decision-making.
That's,
It's only,
that's not what we were told.
Yeah, it's
And
only
I had a
advisory.
feeling that that was the case. How are we measuring success at the Parks and Rec? I keep hearing that there's not interest. I can give you a list of 30 or 40 families that have come to me in the last 2 years because they know I coach and I coach with passion with these kids, saying, when are they gonna do basketball? When are they gonna do volleyball? When are they gonna do these things? But when you call up there, there's no interest. And when you put together a shoddy program, when you don't fund your coaches, you don't fund your programs, people aren't gonna sign up and you're not gonna have interest. We have people in this community that want to participate. We're just not giving them something worth participating in. And one of the things that I say, I said I wasn't gonna cry. I tell my kids before every game, if it's worth doing, you do it with excellence. Go be excellent. I'm sending my kids into a less than excellent program every Sunday. By the way, an issue that we've been having, they mow the grass on a Monday when we play soccer games on a Sunday. There have been times when the weeds are taller than the balls and you can't even see our soccer balls. Ravenna has potential and we are not showing it. So I ask of you, please look into this. I have been doing this for 5 years. I'm so tired. It shouldn't be this exhausting. We made friends with a coach in Kent because our team plays them and they're good. They're like us, they have good sportsmanship, they're there for the right reasons. He encouraged us to come play in Kent. I signed my daughter up for a travel team, and let me be honest here, travel is no different than rec at this point. Her travel team, potential-wise, is far lower than what our rec kids are playing at. They get stuff. Their coaches are well-trained. They are backed by their department. It is so different sitting over there watching what they get and seeing what we have to fight for here. Brian has been an improvement for us. I can't say the same for the other sports. My husband and I, at our own expense, out of our own pockets, have been running facilities in town in the winter for our kids to touch soccer balls in the winter. We call it skills and drills. I mean, we go in the cold. And Ravenna doesn't see the investment in this. So I'm asking you guys, please look at the Parks and Rec. I have for 5 years been barking up this tree and nothing's happening, and I'm not the only parent. 3 of your amazing coaches have walked away and rid their hands of Parks and Rec. You have parents doing it. I lost 5 players in the last 2 years, not because of me, but because of the individuals at the Parks and Rec. And I know politics are ugly and hard, but if you want Ravenna athletics at the high school level, at the middle school level, to be anything, you guys need to invest in your youth, because these programs are the feeder programs for your kid. My daughter is an excellent athlete, and she has nothing at Ravenna for her, because the program has been pathetic. And I don't mean that as like it's bad. And if any of you currently have kids in there, I'm sorry, because your coaches are trying to do the best they can. So I ask you, call Parks and Rec to be excellent, because that's what we ask kids to do.
Okay, Ms. Morris, I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate your willingness to come before City Council with your concerns. A lot of what you're complaining about are administrative issues, and maybe funding might be a big part of this, I'm not sure, but maybe City Council could look into the funding component of this if things are not being...
One of the things that I know is when my daughter played softball for Parks and Rec, we had to cancel a game and play it under the lights, and they refused to turn the lights on for us, and they played in the dark.
Yeah.
But after working for Parks and Rec, I can't imagine they're as strapped as they say they are. I think it's just an excuse. But that's mine. And I know that you guys only have so much you can do, but I think it needs to be acquired.
Are you able to forward us what all your points, so that way we can make sure?
I have something that I can send to you.
Yeah, please.
Have you maybe make an appointment with the mayor? And, I don't know if that would be something more to talk with you over, more privately?
I would think this is the first I've heard about
Have you heard
this.
anything? Yeah, because he oversees all of this, so.
And my question is, as a parent and as a coach, when I have complaints, I call the Parks and Rec. Where does it go? How do parents know that this or you are the place to go? Because they're just walking away. And it's sad because they go to Kent, they go to Streetsboro. We went as far as Manaway, Crestwood for sports that weren't offered here. And when they go to those programs, they don't come back. So how, as a parent, do you advertise or put out there a way that when they have issues, they can be corrected appropriately in a timely fashion, rather than just going there and nothing happening?
It's almost like something needs to be on our website.
But I'm asking you, so
Yeah.
when I have a problem and it dies there, where do I go? Do I have to set up a meeting with the mayor every time, or do I call you? I mean,
Usually, all of the administration, they all report to the mayor.
Okay.
Everybody is under him. So, and then his right hand is Kay, the service director. So, although she's not their boss, most cases, and then your council people, you can always come to any of us, and we can always direct you. We don't do administrative. We do, funding, ordinances. But, I do understand your frustration.
I'm not gonna lie, I have wanted this on the record, because I've probably called 50 times in the last 5 years, and they don't care. Because who's keeping them, who's their checks and balances, I guess is the question I'm asking.
Yeah, and if nobody knows,
Do we not have surveys that can go out? Do we not, my other question, we've had excellent people in there. Jill Halligan was amazing. Dana Atten was amazing.
Yeah, they were.
Where are they, and why do all their good personnel leave?
Yeah, those types of questions are purely administrative. City council has virtually nothing to do with who gets hired in Parks and Rec. And I do think, we know the mayor has an open door policy. I would strongly encourage you to talk to the mayor. I'm trying to see what council has, and I appreciate Ms. West's idea. If you can forward
Yep.
to us,
There are
but
people-
try to put it into a focus or a lens that says, well, what can the legislative body of the city do to help?
well, I know that,
I'm not gonna lie, I just wanted you guys to be aware.
No, and then we're happy to be the sounding
And
board for
I'm a
you.
solution problem, or I hate giving you a problem without a solution. I have a
Well-
list of things that I think you guys could do, surveys for parents. I can give you a ton of that kind of stuff.
We
which
did a
I've
survey
already
not too
given-
long
I've
ago.
already given to Parks
We
and
haven't
Rec.
done
Well, that's
it
a
yet.
different
Still
survey.
dealing with it.
Melissa, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
And as a mom, I mean, my kids are older now, but been through Parks and Rec. There's a lot of us that have had our issues over the years, but we've also enjoyed some great things. And as a former Ravenna student myself that did participate in Parks and Rec, and it was quite enjoyable many, many years ago.
I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, as a parent, that's what I thought we were bringing our children to.
Exactly.
And Parks and Rec used to be a hub. Like, if Parks and Rec, back when I was younger, didn't have it, they'd say, hey, 4-H can provide you with that. Kent has a great program. It's a, nope, sorry, we can't help you.
We
No is
honestly
the
need
big
more
thing.
parents like you.
You got them.
And
You have
we
'em.
do.
You were,
We have a
again-
lot, but
yeah.
you stepping up and taking on that is fantastic, and we truly appreciate that. And we do want to hear any suggestions and any ways that we can help, certainly. And I do think on the legislative side, we do need to look into a mandated process of background checks
By the
on
way, I thought that
everybody
was
that is
already
with our
done.
children.
Something to add to that, there was, and I can't remember the personnel, when Kyle left, they hired someone, he was here for a short while, and then Ian came in. Again, these are the people I deal directly with 90%
Sure.
of the time. We went 2 soccer seasons where we weren't even asked to be background checked until well into the season, so I'm sure if you checked your police department, they could give you dates and verifications when those came through to show that, there's some credence behind this. But, that makes me nervous. I'm literally the parent that background checks, and that really makes me nervous. I'm background
Yes.
checked through the school. But I have parents that stay with Parks and Rec because that's where I'm at. And I'm at the point, I've got a son that's coming up, and I don't know that we're gonna stay if it looks like this much longer. I can't. And I know that we have other parents that see this too. I know you guys are limited to what your potential is, but if a group of you get together, change can take place.
oh, absolutely.
So, and
I-
like I said, I'm sorry to be that person because I like to be the problem solver, and I've tried to solve this problem, but I can't do it alone.
Don't apologize for being that person. You have to get this up. For real, you have to share that. And I appreciate that you're coming and saying, these are the problems. But I have some suggestions to fix it, because a lot of times we get, these are the problems, figure it out. But you have some suggestions to fix it, and that's super important.
And if this conversation wants to continue, please let me know.
Yeah.
I'm invested in this because it's not just my kids, it's the entire Ravenna City School District that this could benefit.
And Dr. Kelfi, I know, sets on for city council.
I was sad that he wasn't here tonight because I thought he would, he sits on that board.
Yeah, he does sit on the board and represent city council. But it would be nice to see, maybe their, I don't know with their budget and where they are, and I don't know, maybe there's some plans to look at,
We
or,
got new walls this year. Brian, like I said, he's been a great improvement for us. They're like buying bottom of the barrel crap for our kids. And like I said, we got brand new walls.
What are they, last 2 games?
6 of them popped already.
Yeah.
And Brian has been helpful with us. But there's just a lot more to it than that. We shouldn't be turning away a kid and refusing to refund them if they can't make it before practice starts. That's the deciding factor for a lot of families. If you can't, you're choosing between what sport you're playing because they're low income. And by the way, the scholarships that are available, most of our families don't even know that they exist. So I think that's something that you guys can encourage Parks and Rec to let them know that there are scholarships available. I think that would benefit our kids greatly. But unless you have more questions for me.
I would like to talk to you about this, outside of here, because what I want to talk to you about would take too long today.
Mr. Kluge, if you want to pass my email along to whomever, I can give you my phone number and you can
Yeah.
pass it along. Let
Yes.
me know. I don't want to just be a problem here. I want to be a part of the solution. So
Thank you.
and I would recommend, calling City Hall and then maybe, having more of a one-on-one conversation where you could actually, maybe you guys could have a group and, talk about this more.
thank you.
And I want to thank you again because of yourself or someone else didn't bring these in front of all of us. There's a lot of those things that possibly might not be known of. I've heard of a little bit of that, but nothing to the extent that you've mentioned.
And one thing I want to say, I could have done this a lot sooner, but Ravenna is really small. And Burn Bridge is doing this, and it was a give or take, people are very tethered together here. And I kind of just figured at this point, kids deserve better. So, I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? You seem eager to stand up and...
I am Melissa's mom. I'm Claire Moore, 3504 Lovers Lane. And I want to address the mayor first. I do know that you are over Parks and Rec. Yes. And it was probably 8 months ago. My daughter doesn't know this. I was trying to keep it from her. I did call your office and said that I would like to talk to you about what was happening at Parks and Rec. And I was told that you were out of the office, that you would return my call. I never got a call.
I return calls. I learned,
And I know you, Mayor Seaman, I know you would have returned my call.
yes.
My children, who are now 36 and 42, came up through the Parks and Rec department. They played every sport there was. And there were a lot to choose from. And we had fantastic administrators in the Parks and Rec. We had great coaches, and the parents were phenomenal. We all pitched in. Every sport was a family. I see my daughter doing the same thing. Sorry, she gets her tears from her mother. But they are very passionate, just like the coaches and the parents used to be when my kids were coming up. The reason I called you, Mayor Seaman, was I had to take her children to Streetsboro for basketball. She was unavailable one Saturday morning, so I offered to take them. I was absolutely appalled when I went into the auditorium in Streetsboro, and there must have been 30 Ravenna kids there.
Wow.
And when she finally showed up, I said, look at the kids here. How many of these kids do you know? We knew almost all of them. So after that game in Streetsboro games, I talked to a couple of the parents and said, why in the world are you taking your kids to Streetsboro? And they said, because Ravenna doesn't offer us anything. We have to go out of our town to find things for our children to do. And that's exactly why my grandchildren went to Streetsboro. To me, that is appalling. Everyone here knows that we are trying to promote Ravenna City, correct? And we have the issues of why doesn't anyone want to come here? One of the number one reasons, there is nothing here for our youth. I work at one of the biggest employers in Aurora, McMaster Car Supply. I know. We have hundreds of employees there. And when COVID hit, we started working from home. A lot of our families live in, up near Cleveland, North Ridgeville, those areas. A lot of them, when we started working from home, decided they wanted to move to the country. So they were looking for other places to move to. I got with a group of the women that I work with that were looking for potential new homes, and I said, why don't you guys look at Ravenna? And before I got that out of my mouth, one of the women said, oh, I would never move to Ravenna. I'm like, why? She said, well, there's nothing for my son to do there. We've looked. We've looked. She actually called the Parks and Rec to see what they offered. And she said they basically offered nothing that Dylan would be interested in. No baseball, no, I can't think of what the other one was now. But she said, there was just nothing for him. And she said the person that she spoke with was very disinterested in her questions. That was her first picture of Ravenna. And she said, I would never move there. A couple of the other women in that group conversation said, oh, we've heard terrible things about Ravenna. Terrible things. And I said, I have lived here all of my life, all but 2 years. And I said, my kids came up, through the system. I said they've had a great education, they've got great friends. My daughter is very invested in the community. There are good things here. You might have to push for them, but they're here, and we have people that care. But we, all of us, we are not doing enough for our youth. And that doesn't fall on anyone but us. Ravenna has to do better for our youth. We have to be more interested. We have to be more invested. If the people here aren't going to do it, nobody is. And although, the director of the Parks and Rec, she might be someone's friend, she might be all of your friends, that is not a reason to keep her here. We need someone who cares about our youth. And it's got to start here. So that's all I have to say. I just, like I said, I wanted to talk to you personally about it, Mr. Seaman. But Ravenna needs to do better for our youth. That's where it's going to start. You need families here, and you're not going to get them unless you take care of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dare I ask, does anybody else? Okay.
I will talk.
Please step up to the,
Oh, they're all together. All right. That's okay. I'm not going to talk about the Parks and Recreation. I got something different.
My name is Jason Bates. I reside at 670 Northwood Court here in Ravenna. Like Melissa, I'm very passionate with things with the youth. I've got 4 girls that are involved in cheerleading, t-ball, softball. Along with coaching with Andrew, I actually coach 3 teams here. which means that 7 days a week I'm at softball fields, I'm at Havers Woods, helping our kids as well as trying to bring in other kids for softball. As a coach, it's very frustrating when, you know, especially at the 14-year age level, those kids are getting ready to go to high school. So having them prepared gets them ready to be part of the high school teams, which prepares them for college and getting scholarships. My girls lose interest when they come to me and they say, hey coach, what kind of uniforms are we gonna get this year? I say, well, I gotta see what the budget is. So I go to our Parks and Rec director, and I hate to be the type of person that points fingers. I know Brian's new to our Parks and Rec department. With having been involved with him since last fall, I always got no for an answer for everything. I got pushback for everything that I asked about. I was told, well, we have uniforms that are donated that we're gonna see if they'll work. I was given a tote of uniforms that were from 1982 from the Ravenna High School. Most of them were housing for mice. So when I asked, well, what's the budget for uniforms this year? I was told $22 per girl. You can't go to Goodwill and get a softball uniform, which includes a shirt, a pair of pants, a belt to hold their pants up for most of them, and a pair of socks. And we were given a $22 budget. So when I approached Brian with, hey, I have a private sponsor who's a local business owner here who wants to sponsor my softball team, I got pushback on that. Well, we already have sponsors for Parks and Rec. I said, then if we have sponsors, then why do I have to go and outsource to get uniforms for my girls? I shouldn't have to do that. My girls asked to play a game under the lights. And this is where it really upsets me. Every other community, they personally call me at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and they say, hey, our game tomorrow, we have a field that we have lights. You guys want to play under the lights tomorrow night? That would be great. My girls ask if we can do it because they know that we have a field that has lights, that I know from talking to several people that $15,000 were put into fixing those lights, to be told we can't turn them on because it costs $125 to turn them on for 2 hours. The next time I see my girls at practice, they don't want to come to practice because they feel their coach is giving up on them, because every time they approach me, I have to tell them no. You don't know how bad I feel for these girls. That for my team this year, I had girls from Garrettsville, girls from Crestwood, and girls from Ravenna. And the reason that those girls were here, and I'm not patting myself on the back by any means, but they came here because of me, because of the things that I do for them. Because I have a girl that calls me, gets my number from her parents, calls me and says, Coach, I really want to do this, but I can't afford it. As a parent, I'm already paying for my kids to do it. I offer to pay for your child because your child doesn't have the money to do that. Out of our own pockets, we purchased hoodies for our girls with our uniform logo, their names and numbers on shirts. That cost us about $400 as coaches that we paid for that, because we don't want these girls to go without, and we wanted to keep them interested. Because we all know, regardless of what age you're at, whether it's young or old, if you lose interest in something, you're not going to go back to it. Equipment I mean, yes, there were some things that have been purchased over the years that we were able to use. But there's also a lot that we as coaches put into this season because, you know, we're told, well, last year we spent $3,200 on the softball program as a whole. And at that point, $932 had been spent. And I was told there was no budget for equipment. We report to, as coaches, we report to our athletic directors for Parks and Rec. If I go to them and asking for something or asking for help with something, and they tell me no, then how do I know that I'm supposed to go to Mayor Seaman's office? Or how do I know that I'm supposed to go to Andrew as a councilman and talk to them about it? Because at that point, then Brian and Judy look at me as, oh, this guy's a complainer because he's gonna go over our heads anyway, so we're not gonna help them. We don't wanna do that. We don't wanna, like Melissa said, we don't wanna burn bridges, we wanna build them. That's why I coach 3 teams here in Ravenna. My wife is the director of the youth cheer program, which went from 22 girls last year to 75 this year. Because of what she does for those girls.
Will you guys do for this reason?
And the parents like what we do for the kids, and that's why they keep coming back, and that's why we're building these programs up. But it's difficult for me as a coach to want to come back when I know that next year I'm going to have the same struggles. That's why I'm here tonight, because somebody needs to step up for us and figure out where things need to be directed so that, you know, when, good example, and I understand all of us have jobs that are 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever. When we're coaches and when we're directors of an athletic department, that's pretty much a 24/7 job that you signed up for. I don't care what anybody says, well, my hours are 8 to 5, so that's when I'm available. When I show up at softball field and I see that the shed that we've been using for the last 2 years is completely empty, the lock is gone, there's no equipment at all in there, and I've got 15 girls that show up for practice, how can I have a proper practice when I can't get bases out? I can't line the fields or anything because the equipment's gone. I try to call my director and he says, I'm sorry, I'm at my son's baseball game in Orange, because that's where I live. So that's where, to me, and this is just my feeling, with things like this, like city councils and mayors and athletic directors, we need people of the community that are gonna care about our community rather than use their community as an excuse why they can't help us. So I call the police department to say, hey, the shed must have been broken into overnight, everything is gone, $1,000 worth of bases gone, to come to find out that our grounds crew moved everything into another building that we at that time had no access to, and no explanation as to why. So now my girls are standing on the softball field looking at me talking to a police officer, wondering why I'm talking to a police officer, because they don't know if I'm in trouble, or they don't know that I'm just making sure that their equipment is taken care of. We shouldn't have that miscommunication with anybody. And I should be able to call my director at 6:15 when an umpire is not at the field and say, why don't I have an umpire here at the field for a game? I'm sorry, I was at my son's baseball game, that's why I couldn't answer the phone. Regardless of where I'm at, if a parent texts me or calls me and has a question about something, even during the day, I'll show you guys, I've got 100 text messages from today from parents and players asking questions about different things going into the fall softball season. I'm taking time out of my day to do that. I live here, I work here, my kids play here. I probably put 100 100 miles a month on my car because I don't leave the city of Ravenna, because this is where everything that we do is centralized at. I don't have, just like I'm sure every one of you, I don't have the extra funds to go and take care of a lot of the things, but we do a lot of extra stuff for our kids. You know, like the one day we had practice, it was 86 degrees. Ice cream man came in the city park. Guess what I did? I stopped practice. I told all the girls, let's go get ice cream and cool you guys off. I'm not expecting Parks and Rec to pay for that, but those are the things that me as a coach that I do to keep them in the right mindset and want to come back next year to do the same thing. And I'm gonna be honest with you, for fall softball this year, we're actually not gonna be involved with Parks and Rec in Ravenna, because our fees this year went down $5 from what they were last year. Last year we provided, I mean, fall ball is kind of like a fun time. It's where everybody from every community can get together and play softball. So typically we only fund a jersey or a t-shirt or whatever for the girls. But this year I was told that's not going to happen because Parks and Rec doesn't have the funds to do that. So my softball team actually from this year, my girls are actually going to be teaming up with Crestwood, and we're going to be playing through Crestwood Rec this year for fall ball, for 14U, because of the pushback that we got this year from Parks and Rec, and I'm disappointed with it. And there's somebody that needs to hear the voices of us as coaches and as parents to understand that somebody needs to talk to those that are in charge, because we don't know who those people are. You guys know who those people are, that maybe we can figure out a solution for this so that we don't have this issue. Because now going into high school next year, the way I see it with the girls that are losing interest, there's not going to be a girls softball team for Ravenna High School next year, because those girls they've lost interest because they keep getting told no for everything. So how are they going to feel going into high school? They're going to feel that the same thing's going to happen there, and we can't allow that to continue to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I'm listening and I'm thinking, what are the themes here? And I'm not exactly sure what the next steps are. Mayor, maybe you have some ideas, but...
I have a lot of ideas.
Okay. But the-
Because my son went through the program here, and we all paid too. The soccer team at the high school lost games by 10-0. It was part of the first group that became competitive. Quite honestly, we had to go to traveling teams to do that. But it's a different world. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be that way. I would like to speak with 2 or 3 of you to come up and see me, so I can respond and give you some idea of what I think we can do.
That would be greatly appreciated.
When they talk about the open door policy, it literally is, much to the chagrin of the police department. Because my office is right there. And I had a young man come in last week with his grandmother, and he was going around, he had special needs. She was taking him around and getting pictures, and she brought him in to see me. I brought him in here. Some of his pictures are at the podium. He really liked being at the podium. So I agree with what has been said here tonight for what we need to do for the youth. The things that I have seen when we do the big events, they're usually successful. The Easter egg hunt, those single things that happen. And we get large groups of people that participate in it. I'm not going to go on anymore because I can't solve your problem tonight, but I'll work with you. And Claire, would you set that up? And And if you're just driving by here, I tell people that. If I'm not in with somebody else and you stop to talk, I'm gonna talk to you.
I will see that that's taken care of. We
Okay.
will get a meeting with you.
Okay. I don't want my daughter mad at me, so.
Nor do I want her mad at me.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to add, with our youth programs is, yes, like, we have the parades and that, a lot of the cheerleaders do walk in the parades. Last year, and this is something that's a simple fix, we just have to allow it. I asked for my softball team to walk in the parade, so this way we kind of promote softball a little bit for the girls.
Yeah.
I was told that we weren't allowed to walk in the parade because our Parks and Rec program is funded by the government, and our insurance policy didn't allow us to walk in the parade, because if one of the girls falls and gets hurt when they're walking down the street, Parks and Rec could get sued, and they weren't going to allow that to happen. If you want to find out the truth on that, call Brian Carpenter, because those words came from his mouth last year.
There's nothing you've said that I'm questioning.
One, I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
His wife took over the cheer program here, and at that point, I was still really involved with Jill Halligan and Judy at Parks and Rec. Before his wife took over, I reached out to Parks and Rec and I said, hey, there's no director, they're not even sure if they're gonna have a program. Would you guys be interested in having this? Jill jumped at that opportunity, Judy turned it down. Ravenna Parks and Rec could have been the cheer program here in Ravenna. They had, everything was lined up, she just had to meet with the director.
Was this for younger age
Yes,
kids?
for the youth program, they were begging Parks and Rec to take it
Kindergarten
over.
through,
See, you're talking
sixth
to the
grade.
wrong guy there. I got rid of the cheerleaders.
Well, but the thing is, it was on a platter.
Watch it,
for 'em.
Mr. Seaman.
It was on a platter for them, and we had nothing to offer, we had no gymnastics, nothing, and it was just flat turned down. So that's another opportunity we missed,
Well,
that went to the wayside.
you could hit my house with a rock from the armory. So, I mean, I'm available. And as I say, some magic words isn't gonna fix this right away, but working together, we can fix it. And I'm grateful to the people that have stayed here in Ravenna, because you're absolutely correct. And
Our heart and souls are here.
But I'm seriously concerned about, developing pride is difficult if people don't meet together on the soccer fields or the football field
I
or
don't even think pride's the
basketball.
issue at this point, I think it's integrity,
Yeah.
and that's hard to repair. But yeah, we'll be a conversation, we'll be in that conversation. We will get a meeting set up with you,
Okay, I'd appreciate it.
absolutely.
Somebody else had something, you in the back said that, okay. Because I know you in the back kept,
Piggybacking off of everything.
Given the time we've invested in this discussion, unless there's something significantly new ground we haven't covered, I'm going to politely request that maybe we move on. I think we've got a plan with the mayor. The themes I heard were maybe there's some funding issues. It sounds like maybe we should be devoting a little more money to some of these programs. Communication, whether it's our website or how information's being passed along from the Parks and Recs to our families, coaches, is a concern. And obviously, leadership, I think that's an issue that, has been brought to the table, maybe a discussion about that. Okay, so I don't have anything else on the agenda. I know somebody had something in the back, but you said it wasn't related to Parks and Rec.
No,
What is it related to?
regarding to the grass cutting.
Oh, well, that's, we're going to reopen the utilities.
Do you want to pull the mic down closer to your?
Oh, I'm loud, you'll hear me.
Okay.
My dad always told me to pick my battles, so I'm picking this battle. I've been a resident we're bound for 16 years. I live at 861 Overlook. My name is Darlene Bell. I grew up in Lakewood. My parents are from Youngstown. The only reason why I lived here is because of my parents. My dad's gone. My mom doesn't live here anymore. I have no reason to stay here anymore, except that I own a home, and I have no reason to stay. I'll sell it. The house next to me was vacant for 4 years. 4 years. I called you, another department that does not call back. Emailed, I called you guys to to take care of that yard. The trees are all over, your city's trees all over. I hope you're taking some of the side streets too on this, the tree cut, whatever you're doing. Can't just do the main roads, side roads. My daughter and her son-in-law went to Florida for their anniversary. They came back with this guy at their door, giving them a warning about grass. He measured it at 6 inches. 2 inches do matter. There's no warning. You should tell people first before you try to do this. You gotta tell them what the warning is, how much you're gonna charge. Because I tell you, I'm a taxpayer and I vote. If you're gonna start doing this to my taxes, every levy you have, I'm gonna vote against. Because I don't trust you taking care of the residents. It seems like you're worried about your pocket. I mean, they need help at the Park and Recs, help them out. Instead of hiring this guy that, if you look at this picture, he's smoking a cigarette at someone's house. Come on, that's not a good way to represent somebody. I know, Kay, that you're really into this.
No, I'm
but-
just, I asked Bob who it was.
And you
I
look at
can't
this,
see.
it's not 8 inches. My neighbor, the house that I talked to, for 4 years, I asked someone to take care of that yard. I ended up getting poison ivy so bad from trying to cut that yard back, because it grew into mine. I had to go to the ER to get a shot for poison ivy. That lady got a warning too. Got no problem giving her a warning for her yard, but I asked you guys for 4 years to take care of this. So if you're gonna do this, you guys gotta put your points together instead of saying, oh, I think this guy's gonna cut it. Oh, I think this guy's gonna give the warning. You gotta get your points together because this is people's property and you're representing Ravenna. And you can't do this. Get the facts together. There's more important things to worry about someone's grass being 8 inches. Because I tell you, if I try to cut my grass over that, my lawnmower's gonna stall. So that's my thing, is that if you're gonna do something like this, tell the residents, just don't throw a warning at them or try to charge them $100 to cut the grass. And if you want, yeah, this is what Ravenna does for you. They'll charge you $100 to cut your grass. That's all I have to say.
I'm a little confused. What are you suggesting? Are you saying?
Why don't you tell the residents what you're doing, saying there's a new law, or whatever you want to call it.
But there isn't anything new. I mean, we've
Then
cut,
why did the house next to you for 4
oh,
years?
I don't know.
To not get taken care of. I sent
Yeah, I don't know.
emails, I called, everything.
What numbers and emails did
Oh
you
my
call?
gosh, are you kidding me?
Well, people say that
I called
they call
everybody.
City Hall, but they really don't. They might
No,
call
I
another
did.
department.
What,
I did.
well, one suggestion is to contact your councilman. I mean, again, you know, we straddle this fence between administration and, you know, what we do here at the city council, but one of the roles that councilmen play is to, you know, advocate for these things on behalf of our
Okay,
residents.
So if I give you a
Yeah.
warning on something,
Yeah,
when you want to know that there was a fee, or there was, it has to be 8 inches or 6 inches, which it was 6 inches. And
Well, no, I'm
somebody
referring-
come in a uniform telling you who they are, not just come up to your house. Some guy, you don't know who this person is, you don't know what the law is, then you're telling me 10 days you have to,
3 days.
okay, 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened, but what should have happened is you should have gotten a warning.
It
Oh,
wasn't me. Two people. Two
okay.
people I know that this happened. They had no idea that this was in place.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many years we've been doing this.
I think just since
But
we've
it-
gotten up to staff, full-time
Yeah.
staff, it has become more of a priority. We have people that are actually hired in to take care of it and notice issues. And so that's why it seems like it's more abundant, but it's just that
Yeah.
we have the ability to,
Yeah, but then you're complaining that
Enforced.
we're not taking care of a vacant, which concerns me because,
Things got done when there's a fee for you, but when I asked for it,
Yeah,
I got blown.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, you know,
And I ended up with poison ivy. I have now I have that English artery half, like a quarter of my front yard, I'm fighting to get rid of. But the thing is, figure out who's gonna take the pictures, who's coming to your house, who's gonna go back to make sure it's done, and who is gonna cut it afterwards.
Yeah, those are questions we did.
Those are questions you asked, but
Right.
there was no answers.
Well, I think we need some clarification about the process and who's doing what. I agree with you there. But,
It's not fair to the residents, because we're the ones that are the ones, you're sitting here saying, oh, we're gonna do this, okay, where's this at, let's send this up, but we don't know. It's just another thing.
yeah, look, the details may be unknown to residents, 8 inches, 6 inches, or whatever, but I mean, you'd have to agree, as somebody, we have a whole bunch of people here taking pride in our city. We want people to cut the grass.
Right.
And the city has to step in when people don't. And,
Well, like, that's why
yeah.
I called for 4 years trying to get someone to do it.
yeah, that I don't, that's not good. I agree with you. I'm just saying,
Well, that's another thing I wanna talk to you about. I know, I'm going off, because where I live is a watershed.
okay.
So your sidewalk ends up this much of water, and it's just floods my front yard.
Yeah,
I know, call.
yeah, that's your area,
Is
Bob.
your address 861 Overlook?
Uh-huh.
Well, we'll look into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Come to more of our meetings, you'll get more results.
Oh, actually, I think I'm gonna do more than that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I told you, I didn't need this.
Okay. I think we're done with, just a second. Mayor, is there a management update for planning?
Heavens, no.
Okay, then at 7:51, I will adjourn the planning committee.
At 7:51, I will bring the Community and Economic Development Committee to order. The first item on the agenda is the City of Ravenna, Ritztown Township Joint Economic Development District Agreement. This is something that the mayor and Dennis West and a couple others have worked diligently on over the last several months. And we have David McIntyre, Ritztown Township trustee, and Mike Bogo with Neighborhood Development Services, who have also been part of the team to work on this. Everybody should have received a draft copy of the contract, and I do believe that the maps were sent out showing the JED district and the parcels that are owned by the city that are within that. We're all aware of some of those near Sandy Lake and Leslie Lake and Crystal Lake. And so this is just really exciting movement forward for the city, and bonus that the city gets to be a part of this. If there's any questions, Mr. Bogo, the mayor, and David McIntyre would be more than happy to answer.
And the only question I had, is it the city's responsibility to extend the utilities?
They're already there.
Are they already there? Oh, okay.
There are places for development, but the plan that we have laid out will gather money that will become available to help with the development.
Okay, so there's no expected, okay, good.
Not at this point.
Because I think that's part of a JED, right? Isn't that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
A significant amount of money stays within the JED itself. Some goes to Ritztown, a significant amount stays within
Right,
the JED.
but I'm
we
just,
get a portion.
one of the components is when there's extension of utilities to
Yes.
cover new businesses and stuff, the city has to step in.
Yeah, that would come out of the JED's money.
Yeah, not necessarily. That area is pretty well defined already. It is the 44 corridor. There are some areas that have sewer, but it's not Ravenna City Sewer that would be taking care of that.
It's already there?
The sewer's there. Orange County is the one that has it.
Okay,
And beyond that, as it was just said, a very big significant portion of JED funds are going to go into the JED board to help offset all that stuff.
okay, good. Thank you.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, I know. Probably since I've been on council, it's been a long, long haul. So I'm glad to finally see some headway here and some growth for Ravenna. So I'm happy to see this come together.
We've worked together well, and the meetings that we had were intense, but always positive with this. And I'm looking forward to having a very good relationship with the township trustees in Rutstown.
Good group of people, so, thank you.
The meeting's been very good. Can't have a better mayor for this kind of thing.
Anyone else have anything? Amy, are you okay with moving this
What we
forward?
need to accomplish tonight is to move on the JED agreement, which
Correct.
you won't be able to vote on until probably mid-August. But there's some other things that we have to do.
We have to do the public
We need to
hearing.
appropriate the $7,500 for the JED startup, both sides put that in with that. And in addition to that, we need to get an article into the newspaper for a public hearing. And it has to be published for 3 days, and there has to be 10 days beyond that. We need to get that in the paper tomorrow. This isn't a thing I'm asking you to do. By moving this on, we can go ahead and publish that. So this is still a work in progress. But we had some very good expert advice. We went to a gentleman that helped write the first JED in the state of Ohio. And he was impressed with the work. And I have to tell you, Dave and his companions down there have worked their tail off, convincing people that are participating in this that this is going to help Bridgetown. And it's going to help us also. We're looking at developing from the Talmadge Road down to the Ravenna, and I know part of that takes in Ravenna Township, but we're working with them also. But to have that be kind of where they steer any type of business growth into that area, the people in Rutstown are still very proud of their rural background, and they defend that a lot. And by setting this up, this is already populated with business in that area. So it's a perfect place for the JED to be, and still allows the township to maintain its rural character.
Was the goal for the public hearing to be on the 14th or the 21st of next month?
We'd like to do it, it depends on how quick it gets into the paper.
If it gets in there tomorrow and it's published for 3 days, it's got to be 30 days out.
I can tell you that I can't get something in tomorrow's paper and print. I cannot do it. So, but I can't speak to the ad deadlines.
We, just so you guys are aware, we are gonna talk about Chrome. So,
Yeah.
we are gonna do the same thing tonight, just run it tomorrow, so it's obviously not gonna be a paper for us
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I'm thinking it'll be the latter date. Mr. West is on vacation. He will be back. He was a very key player also in putting this together.
I saw his email, so.
The appropriation of the legal fees for the establishment of the district is one action item, but the other action item that's really important is the council's approval of including the city-owned property in the JED.
Which is part of the draft agreement.
Yeah, it's in, the parcel's already listed in a draft agreement. And I wanted to make sure that you were made aware of that, so that nobody thought we were trying to throw one past you.
No, I think Dennis itemized that in the email that we all received, so.
I'm okay moving it forward.
Okay. and
Absolutely. Dave,
Tim's not here.
hold
Does-
on, he's,
No,
oh,
but I would tell anybody, you know, I pretty much know most of you, you ever have any kind of question, you know, you got my cell phone number. If you don't, no Cheryl does. So just reach out to me.
absolutely, no problem.
Does anyone else have any questions, concerns?
No.
All right, then we'll move the draft agreement forward. And the next line item is, right along with this, is the $7,500 for the JED startup to provide for the legal fees and things. Is there any concerns, comments with that? Move that forward. And then we have the revolving loan fund grant for 214 West Main Street, and this would be for the repair of the Guido's wall. That is going to be used out of the facade RLF. And they're estimating about $170,000 to repair it appropriately.
Does that include a mural?
It does not. It does, however, include concrete block in a certain section of it to make painting a mural easier down the road.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Unfortunately, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but the wall is stepped because of the way that the building, the 218 building was actually built onto the Guido's building, and so we have to come up and then put backing block up, then more backing block to get the brick to all line up, but to fix the roof, tie it back in, do parapet wall, and do the corners. So unfortunately, it's a complicated procedure as opposed to just laying some brick.
So does the repair to the wall necessitate or have to be accomplished before the work, the rest of the work for that property?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is gonna, it doesn't look like we're gonna have a,
Well-
summer opening for our new park area.
We're not having a summer opening for the park. It's important, procedurally, there's lots of different things that we have to go through. One of it is that the state requires you to authorize the loan that we've all been talking about, and the wall we've been talking about for months. But we need to get the wall started because the equipment, machinery, certainly can't do any improvements to the lot with heavy
That's true.
machinery going
That's
in and
right.
out of it.
Yeah.
We're also gonna have to settle up on whatever happens with patio expansion because we're certainly not gonna re-brick it and then cut a big hole. in it.
Right. Are we anywhere with that?
Last I knew, we were waiting on some further information from Mr. Semino.
We need him to
Be back on Thursday.
write up the lease so that we can put it in front of us for a vote. I think we've considered it quite a long time, so I think it's time to bring that before council, or I think overdue.
I believe originally we wanted to go with whatever was done the first time around, but apparently there was no paperwork done
We
the
don't know
first
what
time
happened the
around.
first
So reinventing the wheel without reinventing it.
So will this be a local company doing this?
It's gonna go out to bid.
Proposals right now, one is local, the other is not. Guido's, as the business owner, will make that selection. I'm fairly confident they will be choosing the local vendor, but it is their decision.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope,
Move it forward?
absolutely.
Any management updates?
Not tonight.
With that, I will adjourn.